Hello, BookTube. This is the Halloween This and That tag. I saw Steve Donahue do it, and he tagged everybody, and I'm part of that crowd. I have seen Jay, Shay, and a few other people do it, so I thought kids went out to a haunted house tonight in our little town. We had a trunk or treat earlier for the library. So there's been a lot of Halloween stuff here. And so I thought it'd be fun to try. And we'll just give it a shot. So the prompts. So it's this or that. Dracula or Frankenstein. For me, probably I enjoy Frankenstein. But for me, probably the Dracula would be the one I would go for. I remember, so vampires wise, of course, I've mentioned before Salem's Lot by Stephen King, a very early Stephen King, and a very New England Stephen King. It was one of my favorite novels when I was a young fella, and scared the fire out of me when I read it. I was in an old New England house with autumn trees scratching the side of the house, and excuse me, my parents had left me on my own that evening while they went out, and I made the decision to read that novel, and I've never forgotten it. The next one is Skellington or Sanderson. I have read Sanderson. I've been watching him as part of my Preptober. He has done some that are on YouTube. He's done some lectures on writing and creating fiction that I actually thought were quite good, and I have read some of his, and I enjoy him, so I would go with Sanderson. Number 3, Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers. I could care less about either of them. I don't watch that type of stuff. I mean, they're in the popular culture. You can't avoid them, but I will pick one, Freddy Krueger. Next one is vampires or werewolves. Again, for me, it would be vampires. They seem a little more terrifying. Where, well, I guess a werewolf, if it was coming after you, would be pretty terrifying. I mean, I understand it's a suspension of disbelief. When you do these things, I don't expect them to be real, and I can understand how they can be scary without being real. That's sort of the point. I don't remember Werewolves of London was pretty funny but scary. But I would go with vampires. Number 5, zombies or ghosts. Zombies, it does nothing for me. It's just decaying flesh. Ghosts, if you live up here, and this house is old. I've lived in much older houses that were a couple hundred years old. And all these houses where I live just about have had somebody die in them. And yeah, when you have a family like mine, ghosts aren't all that surprising. Can be a bit of an irritant. We talk to them, and when they're in the mood, they talk back. So, witches or fairies? Fairies seem scary to me. I remember a movie that brought two of them together. I don't remember the title. Elizabeth Montgomery, the lady who played as Bewitched. Samantha on Bewitched. I remember my parents were watching a movie, this would be in the 1960s, earliest 70s at the latest. And they were downstairs watching a movie, and I was supposed to be in bed. Well, in our old house, there were grates in the floor for warm air to come up. In other words, it wasn't a heating grate. It was a grate for just the flow of air. We still have them in this house. And this one was pretty good size. And they sent me to bed upstairs, and I sat on the grate because you could just get an angle on the television. And there was a TV show, movie, and I don't know the name of it. They were watching, and she was a Salem witch, and it was modern time and ancient time, and she's remembering back, and I don't remember all the details, but it was a house very much like we lived in, and part of it that was really terrifying to me is they were piling stones on her as a witch to kill her in her earlier life, and somehow she's having these flashbacks to that in the modern time, and she's sitting in front of a fire, and then all of a sudden you see these little gremlin-y fairy guys start coming up through the fire. Yeah, I yelled, and yeah, I got yelled at. Superheroes or supervillains, I'm not sure what either one has to do with Halloween. They seem more like comic books. Superheroes any day, I would guess. Pirates or princesses. Yes, I've dealt with pirates before, obviously, being an ex-Coast Guardsman. I've dealt with princesses before. That's a private story. I would prefer a princess any day. Candy corn or caramels? I love candy corn. No idea. And a fellow my age who eats caramels deserves what happens to him and to pay the price at the dentist. Number 10, popcorn balls or candy apples? Candy apples are so much work. I mean, they smell good, they look really cool. Popcorn balls, depending on what they're made with and how they're done, I think I would pick. Number 11, apple cider or pumpkin spice latte? Well, in this house, from the littlest person to the biggest person or oldest person, which is me, I think apple cider would win hands down. I don't even know how you compare the two. Apple cider is about as earthy and as home as you can get. Number 12, hayride or haunted house? Well, for like I say, living up here, haunted house is where you live. A hayride's what you go and do. So I would take a hayride. And number 13, costume party or spooky Netflix binge? I would guess, for my wife, she probably would do the Netflix binge because she likes television, but maybe not. She likes costume parties too. For me, I don't really watch binge. I do binge occasionally. I don't think I've ever binged a spooky show. I'm not big on costume parties, but I won a costume contest a long time ago. This would have been in the 60s. As dressed up as a pirate, and I've never forgot it. It's a building it took place in a building they're trying to save right now. It's disheartening when they're trying to save buildings that were just part of your life. That's how old they've gotten. So I would go for costume party, I guess. So that is the Halloween This and That tag. It was original tag from Tia at Tia and All the Books. Very well done. There was Shay, there was Dane Reads, Steve Donahue, and anybody else I'm missing who's done it. I did watch a few of them. I've been a little behind watching videos. It's a busy month with all our Halloween stuff and different meetings. But tomorrow's NaNoWriMo. First day, 1,667 words, preferably more. I've all prepped pretty much with the Save the Cat story arc, 3-act story arc they got from screenwriters. So I've used the I didn't adapt it, but I've used the adaptation of that. So we'll give that a shot. The kids went out in the rain, a lot of rain tonight, and did trick or treat, and they had a great deal of fun in a haunted house. The rec center was turned into a haunted house. So happy Halloween, and see you tomorrow.